Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a little bit since my last Dead by Daylight video, and I just want to quickly thank everyone who watched it and gave it support. That is my best performing video ever, and it warms my heart to say that because I put in a lot of time and effort into it. But yeah, the amount of support was overwhelming to say the very least. Anyway, I'm here to go over FNAF and Dead by Daylight yet again, but this time I'm not giving concepts or a wish list. I'm gonna lock in some final predictions and go over a few leaks. It's nearly been 9 months since the official announcement that this collab was happening came out, and literally next week we're getting the reveal of PAX East. I'm gonna be live streaming that, by the way, so just turn on notifications if you're subscribed to me, or stick around and see my reaction. We'll compare how much I got right and wrong from my initial video. But for this video, sit back, relax, and let me just yap about what I think this chapter is definitely going to have, and go over some of the leaks. What I like about them, what I don't like, what I think is going to come to the game out of the leaks, what I think is just made up bullshit. Before we start, I do want to clear up some misconceptions. I've seen a few people say that we're only going to get stuff from FNAF 1 to Ultimate Custom Night because only Scott Cawthon's name was seen on the initial teaser image, and that's not true. Scott Cawthon still owns the rights to everything Five Nights at Freddy's, and almost everything needs to go through him for his approval. I don't know if that's how it works with the movies and Blumhouse, but for Steel Wool, the books, literally everything else, even merch, it has to be approved by him. Hell, remember that one survival crew game, that Dead by Daylight knockoff that was going to be on Roblox? That got released early because Scott Cawthon approved a skin, and the developers thought that meant release the game. God, that was a mess. I might make a video on, like, what even happened there, but let's stick to Dead by Daylight right now. We could easily see things from Steel Wool FNAF games without seeing their trademark or logo, since Scott is technically their boss when it comes to FNAF-related media. Steel Wool is not a FNAF company. They are a game company. They just have people working on FNAF right now. Scott could easily take the Mimic or Glamrock Freddy and just put him right in Dead by Daylight without permission from Steel Wool. And just want to clear that before we get started. Hey, so sorry to say this, but one more thing before we get started. As I was retooling my script to add more context information, I went to go find screenshots and tweets of all the leaks that have been, like, roaming around recently, or for the past few months, and they're all gone. I went to the guy's profile who was originally leaking everything, or supposedly leaking everything, and the guy deleted every single one of his tweets up to, like, mid-April, so I don't know what even happened there. I don't know if behavior got him, I don't know if he did it to make himself look less bad if anything didn't come true. But I went back, I saw my replies to the tweets, but it said they were deleted by the post author. So unfortunately, I can really only talk about what I remember. And you're just gonna have to trust me that this stuff's real, because there's definitely other YouTube videos talking about these leaks, so I'm not crazy. Just like last time, we're going to be starting off with the characters, and we'll go by Killer and then Survivor. Starting with Killer, I'm 100% certain the killer for the chapter is going to be Springtrap. There have been so many requests for him specifically, and all of the concept videos, artwork, and everyone has basically wanted Springtrap in the game. Since 2020, 2021, literally no one's ever said we want FNAF in the game. Most people say we want Springtrap in Dead by Daylight, which leads me to believe that he's just the correct choice for this and maybe the first FNAF chapter. The Mimic could always come in the second chapter, or maybe even as like a legendary skin for Singularity, is what I think he would work best at. That's kind of it. Yeah, it's really all I have for Killer. I just think it's going to be Springtrap. I don't think he's going to use his fist. I think he's going to have a weapon. I want it to be a knife just because he's used that in official media, like the movie, the Silver Eyes, What We Found, Pressure. Like, Springtrap's used a knife in official media. He's never once used an axe in official FNAF media. Only ever fan animations like Die in a Fire, or fan comics, or fan art. Alright, not once in FNAF official media approved and released by Scott Cawthon has Springtrap touched or even mentioned a fire axe. I also think we're going to get at least one survivor. We could maybe get two, judging off of the other huge and hype licenses such as Stranger Things, both Resident Evil chapters, or even Dungeons and Dragons. Because they've all been anniversary chapters. I'm pretty sure I might go back, but I'm going to put pictures of all the anniversary chapters, and maybe there will be a pattern. I know Ghostface was an anniversary chapter, but that was still in the early days, and it was just a killer. Who the characters are going to be remains to be seen, but if I had to choose one character, one protagonist from Five Nights at Freddy's to be the survivor, if we're only getting one, I'm going to lock in with Michael Afton. I think the father-son dynamic between Michael and William has so much potential for voice lines and lore in and out of Dead by Daylight, as well as Michael being a fan favorite character in the franchise. Plus, we recently got this cover for FNAF Ticket to Fun, and most people think that this is Michael on the cover. So we technically have a new kind of canon Michael design if this is him. I don't know. I could probably see Vanessa or Charlie from the Silver Eyes trilogy also being a survivor for the chapter, but I think they'll either do a second survivor or save them for a future chapter, or just introduce them as legendary skins for Michael and, yeah, well, maybe just Michael. I wrote this late into production, but I also wanted to touch on Henry, since he's like a big name and face in the franchise. We do have an quote-unquote official design for him, but I really don't think he would be the sole survivor. I just don't think Henry has much going for him as Michael or Charlie or Vanessa. So I could see them possibly waiting until the second FNAF movie for like a crossover collection to add him in. I now want to get into Springtrap's power. Now, I didn't really touch on that a lot in my last video. I just kind of was very vague, and I just wanted Springtrap to be a stealth killer. But I want to talk about the leaks and just pick apart what I like and don't like, and if I think they're even true. Now, everyone's heard about the leaks and rumors that Springtrap's power will revolve around him throwing and recalling an axe, and I just think that's really stupid. The leaks sound way too familiar to how Springtrap plays in Pillar Chase 2, and I don't think they would boil Springtrap down to a Huntress Deathslinger fusion for his power. Now, according to the leaks also, this isn't his full power. Springtrap has a second aspect to his power, revolving around cameras, jump scares, and stealth. Mainly, Springtrap is going to have more of a Ghostface mechanic, where he can like stalk and be stealthy towards survivors, and survivors could use cameras to reveal him. I think that is a lot better and more FNAF oriented than the Thor, Kratos, axe recall stuff. But I would prefer Springtrap just be a stealth oriented killer, but maybe with a bit more fun and aggression than Myers or Ghostface. But I don't think this is true. I just think that both the cameras being stealth and the axe throwing part being more aggressive and offensive is way too clashing, and I just don't think that there is going to be a healthy way to balance such an aggressive power with also a stealth oriented gimmick. I think that only one of these things are going to be true, and if it's only one of them, I would prefer the stealth camera system over the axe throwing, since stealth, cameras, jump scares, and all that are a core part of what makes FNAF FNAF. So yeah, I'm just hoping this really isn't his power. If it is, I guess I'm just going to have to deal with it and like it, but I'm not going to be happy. Like, this is the one chapter I'm actually going to give a review on. Maybe more in the future if I'm like actually interested in the franchises, but this is a special case of doing Dead by Daylight. Maps were also a part that I really didn't touch on in my last video. I think it was like a 30-second segment of like, oh, I want to see Freddy Fazbear's or Fazbear Frights. But again, more leaks. FNAF is definitely going to have a map. The different locations and pizzerias are iconic in of themselves, and I think that would be another huge missed opportunity to just not have a map at all. Now, to get in some leaks, there was a leak floating around a bit ago, same guy who I actually interacted with and asked a few questions about, that the FNAF chapter would have a map and it would be made up of multiple locations. Now, I thought that this meant we were going to get multiple FNAF maps, and when I asked this, they gave me clarification that we're not getting multiple FNAF maps, but we're just getting a mashup pizzeria map based on the first 3 games, with the first and third getting the most focus, while the second game just kind of gets a few elements sprinkled here and there. Now, I really don't believe that entirely, because from what Dead by Daylight devs have said in the past is that maps are usually the hardest aspect of a chapter. So I think them trying to just take all these different FNAF ideas and mash them together, instead of just plopping a location in like a forest or a neighborhood or something like that, would just kind of be a little weird for them. But also, this chapter's been in development for a year. It's their most hyped chapter, so they're probably going to go all out. So yeah, I don't really have a concrete stance on this one. I do think we could get multiple FNAF maps, though, based on different pizzerias and the different games in Dead by Daylight. I've seen a few ideas float around, like the minigame sections with the house, the neighborhood, and Fredbear's Family Diner from FNAF 4. I think that'd be a great idea, but I just don't think that area is iconic enough. I've seen people say the sister location bunker, but I think that's too cramped, empty, and indoors to work. So my things boil down to the first pizzeria and Fazbear's Frights, and if I had to pick one of the two, I would go with Fazbear Frights. The killer and survivor being Michael and William, and having the map also follow the footsteps of FNAF 3 would make the most logical sense. Like, there's a lot of creative freedom Dead by Daylight can take with maps with Five Nights at Freddy's, but I think what they're going to do is they're going to take Fazbear Frights, make it a little bigger, change up the layout a little bit to make it a bit less linear and cramped, and then add like a parking lot, a little forest area, a few houses, and then like a killer shack. That's all I really think they'll do. So yeah, that's my prediction, and we'll just, again, next Friday, I'm going to be live streaming this, reacting to the trailer, and then seeing what I got right and what I got wrong. Alright, here's some suggestive stuff. Tome and lore. I think we're going to get a tome after the FNAF chapter that's going to be complete FNAF themed around characters, and I think the tome will give us lore that could give us bits of information to help us piece stuff together in the games. Now again, there were leaks going around a while back saying that the FNAF chapter would have a tome that would have lore canon to the games. Things like dates for events, or character names, and just pinpointing where certain things happen in the FNAF timeline. Now I think that could be a really cool idea, since tomes and that lore are mostly free to play and would be easily accessible to anyone. Okay, I mean, yeah, you gotta spend like $20 to play Dead by Daylight, but come on, we're gonna have so many YouTube videos and people online just being like, oh, this thing happened here, and people are gonna cry and be like, oh, they're making us go out of our way to do stuff, when literally only one person needs to look at this lore, upload on the internet, and then everyone else. Anyway, I'm getting too out of hand. Now, I was all for this until the same leaker started saying that this tome would confirm Burntrap being William Afton. And that just seems really out of character for Scott. It seems like since Ruin, Scott and Steelwool have been trying to completely move away from Burntrap and decanonize him since that whole miscommunication fuck-up with Security Breach. So to open up that can of worms again, in a different game that's paid no less, would piss off so many people. I could see things being clarified, like the MCI does indeed take place in 1985, Michael did put his brother in the Fredbear jaws to cause the bite of 83, that stuff could be fine. Saying stuff like Burntrap is William Afton in a completely different game would just make no sense. And finally, we're definitely going to get plenty of cosmetics for everything you can think of. Survivors, killers, charms, banners, profile pictures, anything you can think of. And I think that a lot of FNAF characters, like the most iconic ones, the Puppet, Freddy, Mimic, Ennard, and maybe some Nightmares or Phantoms or whatever, will be represented mainly from Scott's era FNAF games, those animatronics, and they'll just be skins for other killers. We could get some newer stuff like Monty, Glamrock Freddy, Eclipse, Mimic, and that's a possibility. But I just think they're going to stick more to classic FNAF. And we'll definitely get a custom FNAF lobby for this chapter, and I'm going to cry when it leaves. So let's hope that they implement something where you could just choose whatever lobby you want to be in. And those are my final predictions for the Finds and Praise chapter. Let me know what you guys think, and we will revisit this once the FNAF chapter gets revealed at PAX East on Friday. Until then, I'll see you all on the flip side.